was telling Dave, I thought when he started that story, I thought he was going to tell everybody about his visit up here to Northern Illinois.
Oh, yes. I would like to tell that story. So,
I'd love to hear
it. Tim graciously invited me to come up a few weeks back. And as it turns out, he only lives about 12 or 14 miles from where my daughter is attending college. So I was able to see her that weekend and then go metal detecting with him. And we had Jeff came down from Wisconsin, and Don came from Chicago. So we all met. And Tim took us on some of his permissions, where these farm sites were in the 1800s. And there's nothing there now. And we were finding a few old coins, but you know how it is. You can hunt a corner of the field all day and not find anything. And then you think there's nothing there, and you come back the next day and there's targets everywhere. And you're like, how did we miss these? But
magic.
We were at the bottom of this knoll. We were down by the road where there were two house sites from the 1800s. And I think we popped a couple wheat pennies and just nitnoid stuff, nothing exciting. And Tim kept saying, hey, up the hill, if you go up the hill, there was an even older house site up there, but the corn was still, hadn't been harvested yet. Well, while we're detecting, the harvester shows up and starts cutting the corn. But it's probably 120 acres of corn. And of course, a house site is not a very big site. So the guy starts cutting the corn, and we're detecting, and we're waiting an hour, 2 hours. And the last place he cut the corn, the very last sweep of the combine, was where the house site was. So we went up there. We go up there, and we start hitting buttons. And I found a shield nickel. And it is the nicest shield nickel I've ever found. The guy must not use fertilizers. I mean, you can read the date even. It's, how tiny the date is on a shield nickel. And so I found like 4 or 5 flat buttons. These guys found some buttons. So I go back to my So I go back to my hotel room that night because we're going to meet up the next day to go detecting again. And I washed all my stuff in the sink at the hotel. And, your flat buttons, you wash them off and you put them shank up. I put them on a washcloth so they would dry. Mm-hmm. And the next morning I get up and I go to the bathroom and I see the buttons are all nice and dry. And I thought, I'll check the back marks. And I pick up one, and it's got treble gilt, you know how those back marks are. Yep. Then I pick up another one and I see Jackson. And I thought, it must be Jackson's sons. And I look, and then I see 1829. And then it says, Andrew Jackson, President, 1829. So I'm freaking out. I'm calling Tim. I said, Tim, because I already Googled it. I found the damn button. It's inauguration button. And it's a flat button. The front is plain, but it would have had cloth wrapped around it, maybe with an image on it or something like that. But the cloth, of course, is long gone. But the back clearly says Andrew Jackson, President, 1829, had a nice shank, a little bit bent over. So I'm all excited about it. I'm looking it up online. I'm calling him. And so we go out the next day. We don't find much. But then I'll let Tim pick up the story from there.
Yeah. So, lo and behold, Dave finds this button. I've heard of these buttons before. Never in a million years that I think we would find one here in Northern Illinois, especially on a site that that I've got permission for. So Dave finds this button. I don't know. I think it's the following week. It's actually Thanksgiving morning. We had company come over, and they actually called and let us know they weren't going to be over until later in the afternoon. So I opened up some time in the morning for me. So I said, I'm going to run back out to that farm. Maybe there's another one of those buttons laying out there. You never know.
Yep.
And so I made the long walk across the field up to the top of the hill where that home site was at. And I knew roughly where Dave had found it. I didn't, if he showed me later, he goes, here's a couple of buttons I had found. So I knew about where he had been at in the field. And so I kind of concentrated over in that area, and I got a large scent. I was like, right on, nice. And then the second target was a flat button. I was like, no way. Could it be? I flipped it over and rubbing. And I couldn't, for whatever reason, this dirt would just not come off the back. So I'm grabbing like a little corn stalk and I'm trying to do the toothpick thing, scrape off the dirt in the back. And the first thing that pops out was 1829.
Oh,
No.
oh my
I was
gosh.
like, it is.
Wow.
It's another one.
Let me ask you real quick. I did a quick search on it. Does it have kind of like a diamond on the back and it says Andrew Jackson, March 4th, 1829?
No, that's a different one.
Okay. That's a different one.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah. This one just has the back mark script in a circle.
In a circle. Okay, yeah, I found it. I found that one too.
Yeah, so it'll say Andrew Jackson across the top and then one across the bottom it'll say President 1829. I think there might be a diamond in between the date and him or something like that. But yeah, that was a fun weekend, wasn't it, Dave?
Incredible.